No mucking around. Let's get to it now. Plenty to talk about with the wonderful Michael Kroger joining us from Melbourne in the Man Cave right now, as Emily Dyer, of course, from the Centre of Independent Studies. Hello to you both. Michael, I'll start with you. David Crowe claims that the focus of the past couple of weeks is on a minor issue nobody cares about, but he is gaslighting about what the past 2 weeks has been about. It has not been the obsessive, extreme minority who are deeply and front and centre involved. It's about the border. And everyone cares about the border, and Australians have been very clear since 2001 what their position is on the border. So let's deal with this narrative game that's being played out of the press gallery.
Yeah, mate, I think David's unfortunately suffering from the Canberra bubble syndrome. It's the worst type of affliction for a journalist to catch. And it's basically that syndrome which is when you're in Canberra for too long and you only talk to Canberra-based journalists, particularly those in the Fairfax Press and the ABC, you are a world away from what people in marginal seats in the suburbs around Australia, particularly rural Australia, are thinking. And I can tell you, this issue is alight across the country and people are appalled. They're shocked. Labor supporters are profoundly disappointed in Albo. Everyone else is just appalled. No, I don't think David's reading the room right. And in any case, I'm sure Dutton will get back onto cost of living in due course, David. I don't think he's going to run this till the election. But in the meantime, this issue is an issue of profound importance to Australians. They have no idea what's going on and why Albanese's done this and why we've taken 6 times more than any other country in the world.
Well, and also, Emily, the reality is that again, you can have whatever views you have about the conflict, the situation, the future, the past, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it can be completely divorced from the conversation about the process in which people come into the country. And I think that it is, again, gaslighting is the only word I can keep using here, to pretend that that's not what this conversation is. That is what they have asked questions about for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, I mean, I think the focus on this has been quite intense and probably a bit unhelpful for the Liberal Party and for the coalition. I think there's a huge generational divide on this issue, and that Gen Z voters are saying, well, why not? Like, why aren't we letting them in? They're looking at their social media feeds, they're seeing those images, and are looking at it from a very different perspective than a lot of your older voters and the voters that Michael was referencing in the suburbs. I think that these people, that the younger voters are going to be further alienated from the Liberal Party if it continues down this route.
So you don't think that there's the capacity to two things to be true at the same time? That again, younger voters can see what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely see what's happening, but also understand that you have to have an immigration process that has a series of controls in it.
Oh, I think that younger voters can understand that, and I would fully support of it. Let's bring in refugees, absolutely. We should also absolutely have those checks and should be very careful. And we should expect integration. It's something that my colleague Peter Curdy's been talking about quite a bit, is you come to Australia, you need to join the community, hold to Australian values, and be productive members of society, which I hope and I think that a lot of these people will be grateful to Australia and will respond accordingly.
Yeah, correct. Let's talk about the aged care stuff because, Michael, again, this is all being worked out behind closed doors, and generally speaking, when it's bipartisan, it's either absolutely necessary nation-building stuff or dirty deal, let's both agree not to blame each other because we help fix the bigger problem. Now, I know the change in the lifetime cap for people who go into aged care, okay, it's very big, changing from sort of the high 70s to 190,000, but the idea that there may well be no lifetime cap for people staying in their homes, this is going to be very big, but both sides are going to sign off on it, so therefore we can't talk about it? No way.
I would think that's unlikely, mate. I would think that's unlikely. There's got to be a cap. I mean, you can't have an uncapped scheme like this. I mean, people have got to know what they're going to be up for. And look, I gather the coalition have been pushing for a couple of things. One is to say that there does have to be grandfathering. If you're watching tonight and you're in a home, or your parents are about to go into a home on a waiting list and they've already made a pre-commitment, you have to grandfather those people. You can't change the
100%.
rules on someone who's already in an aged care facility. That would be completely wrong. So we're talking about a situation which is only going to apply going forward. Is everyone going to have to pay a little more? Yes, everyone is going to have to pay a little more, but there's got to be a cap, mate. And I think ultimately they're going to have to reach a situation where there is a lifetime cap, because uncapped schemes for people who are paying out their own pocket, particularly when they're elderly, that ain't going to work in this country.
Well, look, absolutely, which is why I keep talking about it, right? This is not, there's an issue where I've never more hoped to be wrong, but I'm following the reporting that is, again, not telling us that that's currently on the table. We'll all wait and see together, though. Emily, let's make the most of your experience with the CIS, particularly when it comes to Gen Z, and their attitudes when it comes to corporate activism.
Yes.
The assumption from those of us that are not as across it as you are in your learned fashion is that because the younger employees are more socially active, then therefore they demand it of their bosses. Is it true?
Absolutely not. We looked at the data and we asked about a bunch of young people what they thought about corporate activism, and it was a pretty tepid response. Yes, Gen Z is the most aware of corporate activism. Yes, they're most aligned with it, but they're also the people that are leaving organizations in droves because of it.
Really?
So we've got particularly the more moderate Gen Z and millennial voters. They are leaving businesses because they're feeling so alienated by this activism. And rather than pushing their employers to get involved in corporate activism, they feel that they themselves are being judged on that activism that's coming out of companies. About half of them think that they're not judged solely on their merit, but on their ability to toe a politically correct corporate line.
Fascinating stuff. Centre of Independent Studies website. I'll make sure it's up on our socials. Congrats, right? Michael, just before we go, we could do winners and losers, but I really want to ask you about David Anderson. He goes, I think, next year, his tenure at the top of the ABC. Give me the 30-second exit interview.
I welcome David's departure. I think he was completely ineffectual. As I said before, he was just a cork bobbing in the ocean. He wasn't running the organisation. He was following the organisation. And let's just hope the board can appoint someone who's going to adhere to the ABC Charter, which is fair and impartial in the gathering and delivery of news and current affairs.
I've got to look, if they can find a way so that Laura Tingle can both be on television and running it, I'm sure that's what they'll probably conclude, or something like it.